Welcome, team. I'm that excited to bring Pat Richards to the show today. I've been trying to get him for a long time, listeners, but Pat Richards, mate, people will feel it when they listen to this. They'll feel a connection when me and you talk. We go back a long way, and I haven't seen you for a long time, so I'm really happy to see you. But when I say we go back a long way, I was really privileged, mate, to be a part of the start of your journey, and then I've loved following it from afar ever since. So really appreciate you coming on. A lot of listeners that listen, just so you know, a lot of coaches, teachers, trainers, leaders, a lot of business leaders, but also a lot of athletes that want to follow in your footsteps. So thanks for coming.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for allowing me to be here, mate. Yeah, it has been a while. We've been trying to get this on for a while, but yeah, we do go back a fair way. Those early days at Parra when I was probably about, 15, 16. And yeah, very, very good times back then.
Mate, I'm going to start this show, right? I want to get some, I don't know what it will do to you. It might get some emotion going. I'm not even sure. So there's people listen on Audible and Apple Podcasts and whatever. I'll describe what I'm doing. I've just picked up a jersey that you once gave to me. It's a Wigan jersey. Now, Wigan Warriors, number 5. So I'll show it to the camera. The listeners, I'm holding up a jersey to the camera right now. It says Pat Richards, number 5. It's Wigan. It's red and white. It's almost their original colours, cherry. I'm going to throw it to you, and I want you to tell me what emotion that just draws out of you. What memories when you look at that jersey now?
Well, that's the last the last season that I wore the jersey for Wigan. This is the jersey, 2013. Made 8 great seasons over there. So many great memories. Winning grand finals and Challenge Cups at Wembley, and I think it was the longest stint that I had at a club, 8 years in a row, and from when we started, when I first got there, we nearly got relegated, and then to leave the club with a grand final win at Old Trafford was just such a special way to finish. But yeah, I look back at my time over there with great memories. Both my kids were born in England. We recently went back a couple of years ago to catch up with some friends, and it's definitely got a special place in our hearts. And I look at that and with great pride because I loved every minute of it.
Thanks for that, mate. I'm going to stay there on the Wigan bit for a bit. Like you just mentioned, playing at Old Trafford, grand finals, Challenge Cups. There's listeners over there now that, who knows? You've just expanded our listenership. So I love England. You know I love England. I've actually got family and friends in that same area. And I hope they're all listening. But I want to talk to you about what was your memory then of that grand final at Old Trafford, because it's going to just maybe we get it in the comments. If anyone's there, and jump in the comments and tell us your memories of being in the crowd that day, or memories of you. I'd love people to talk about you, but what are your memories of that grand final?
We didn't start too great. Warrington, we played Warrington. Blake Green actually got hit in the head in the first minute of the game. Ben Westwood sort of clocked him in the head, and I was one of the first players to run over to Greenie, and I seen his eyes would sort of roll in the back of his head. And this is the first minute of the game. 70-odd thousand Old Trafford grand final. I seen Greenie on the floor, and I thought, mate, if he goes off, we're a big chance of losing this game straight away. It was all over. So I remember grabbing him, looking at him, and sort of telling him some home truths and trying to get him to sort of come back into it and about how important he was to our team. And luckily enough, Greenie stayed on the field. Had probably his best game of his career, and we won the game. So that's one of the biggest memories I've got from it. So maybe had I not have been there and done that, he said that afterwards that it really helped him. So that was a big moment of the game. But the way we finished the game, I got a pass from Sean O'Loughlin, one of my best mates, and I scored, I think, the last try of the game in the corner, and just to see the crowd, it just brings memories back. And such a special place, Old Trafford. It's got so much history to it, and the Wigan fans were all there. It's only half an hour from Wigan, Manchester, and to celebrate with all my family as well, and friends, and just the team to be able to leave, my mark on the club, and with the grand final ring, and it's a fairy tale. So it's got very special memories about how I finished my time at Wigan.
There's a couple of things I want to stick at there. That's that type of leadership, that moment where you had the skills. Like, it's not easy to tell someone the way you spoke to Blake Green, but it was real, it was passionate, but you must have done something there. Can we stick at that? Like, early in your career, would you have had the courage to say what you said? Or would you have had that skill? Like,
I don't think so. No, I think you get that with experience, and you realise in certain parts of the game as you get older how important things are. And I think I needed to do that at the time. And you know what, Greeny, he just had an absolute blinder of a game, took the line on his kicking game, and just he was so underrated, Greeny. He had a great career as well, and he bounced around to a lot of different clubs. But I suppose that moment was it was a special moment to be a part of, to see him, take that on and rip into it, and you see what happened at the end of it. So,
did he get man of the match that game?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, and he's got the big eyes, a bit like the Sam Burgess, how he played with South, and when he fractured his face in the first minute of the game as well. So people talk about that. As they do, and I'm not sure if even with the rule changes and things like that, if that would have been allowed now, Greeny probably would have had to go off the field. And but that was a time where I suppose, definitely the rest of the players appreciated Greeny sort of sticking that out.
He's doing great, Greeny. He's doing really well. He'll make a great coach. He's been coached by a lot of coaches, so there would have been a lot of lessons along the way. And also, he goes way back to those Parramatta days. So can you imagine me, right? A bit off topic here. I mean, this has been to be about you, not me. But anyway, I grew up where my father would wake me up to watch Challenge Cup finals, watching Wigan play. Back when I was a kid, Wigan were the team. And here I am. I love watching even any players I've ever worked with. I love seeing them, what they get up to in the rest of their life. But when you're both of you who were both part of that Parramatta system back in those days. I mean, I think I first met Greeny actually for training when he was 14 or 15, probably younger than you.
Yep.
And to see two of you over there playing for Wigan in that moment, like I personally, I was just a fan on the lounge, loving it. But in all that, let's get back to you. Sorry, I was just telling everyone what a fan I was of you guys. In all that, let's get back to, you mentioned your best mate. So I just love when a grand final team, when you can just see the mateship, when the teams that win, they are that connected. And you mentioned it in there, like your best mate. He's coaching now too, isn't he?
Yeah, Locker's assistant coach at Wigan, yeah. Him and Tommy Lillaway are the assistants. They just signed another 7 years. So Wigan have locked their coaching staff away, and they've just got a great thing going. And, they won. They're currently holding 4 trophies. They beat Penrith in the World Club Challenge. They won the Challenge Cup last year, this year, in the Super League. So, they're flying at the moment. And, the other boys are doing well coaching as well.
Yeah, they're doing great. I mean, Matt Pete, what a great coach and leader and person. I spent some time over there myself recently, and went with Matt maybe a couple of years ago. We went to a conference together in London, a Leaders in Sport conference with him and Chris Radlinski. He's doing some great things, Chris Radlinski, at that club. But just to sign Matt and Sean and Tommy for 7 years, that's a show of belief, and I find the teams that have that kind of solid connection with, like, they are just a rock solid team. And Matt seems like a great leader, and he's made 4 trophies last year.
Yeah, they're doing really well. So I think what you said before about those sides that go really well, they're so connected, and that 2005 side we had was so connected as well. And we're coming up to 20 years and next year, and we're sort of like Sheensy said the week before the grand final, you boys will be brothers for life after this. And it definitely, you have so many years in your career, but those ones that if you go on and you win something, it's like you got a real special bond with that group. And you have to be, you're going on that journey together, and in those tough times in the games, those tough sides, those connected sides, they tend to defend better as a unit, and defence obviously wins premierships.
Well, defence wins premierships, but so do tries like this. I'm going to call the producer next door who's watching to bring back another memory. So you've started talking about brothers for life and your Tigers connection, and if anyone, you talk to anyone, I actually did it this morning before we press record, before I came, and I asked a 15-year-old kid, I said, I'm doing a podcast with Pat Richards. Oh, yeah, and he mentioned what we're about to watch. So the kid that said that to me was not even born then.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So for the listeners watching Audible, listening on Audible or listening on Apple or Spotify, however you're listening, I'm about to press play on a screen in the studio here. And for any guesses, you know what we're watching. So we've just watched the famous, if you ask anyone about the 2005 Grand Final, that is what they talk about, that try.
Yeah, it's crazy to be involved in a moment like that. But I feel like, yes, I scored the try, but I feel like that try just encapsulated how that 2005 team played all year. And that was just the way we played. We attacked from any position on the field. Benji was just absolute dynamite. And the ironic part is that I suppose Benji was on the wing then because he had bad shoulders. So Sheensy put him back there. So had that not all have happened, it was like all the stars aligned for that try to be. I had a bad ankle leading into the game, and then Benji breaks through and then flicks the pass. And probably at the time I didn't realise he flicked it. I just reacted, and we just played that way. And then you score the try. It just happened so quick, and probably a couple of days later where you just see the try getting replayed and people talking about it, and that you realise it's a pretty special moment.
Well, you beat me to it. I was going to ask, why was Benji playing that wing role? And in my mind, I thought you must have been struggling because it was very well documented, your injury, that ankle injury, you weren't meant to play. So I thought maybe you sent Benji back. But it was actually the other way around. It
was a little bit of both, I suppose. But yeah, Benji's shoulders weren't great at the time. He was about 80 kilos, and he's trying to put shots on blokes, and his shoulders kept popping out, and he ended up having 4 shoulder reconstructions in his career, maybe even 5. But so back then he wasn't as big as he was at the end of his career, and he was anyway, that he goes back onto the wing for the kick return. Hodjo gets the ball, and I think Travis Norton tried to come out and put a shot on Hodjo, and then Benji just explodes through this gap, and I was sort of just sort of I seen him going, and I just reloaded and just pushed through, and then I seen Matt Bowen coming across. Benji sort of tries to take him on the outside, and then before I knew it, I just had to stick the right mid out, and the ball stuck, and then I thought, well, Rod Jensen's coming across here, and I had to change the ball from the right end to the left, because if I didn't, he would have thrown me into touch, and lucky enough, I got the fan right on the button and pushed him away, and ended up finishing it off.
Right, again, I hate to sound like a mad fanboy, but I was a real proud. I was working for an opposition team at the time, obviously, and probably shattered that we weren't there that day. really felt like we should have been there that day.
Well, the Parramatta and the Dragons were probably the two best sides that year.
But as a supporter of you,
yep.
I couldn't have been more happier. You know, like in fact, I think I remember you may or may not remember. I remember getting like a photo sequence of that try, and I don't know where that is now. I should have brought that in too. But I loved seeing you succeed, especially that I knew there was some struggles as well with the ankle, and you know, every grand final's got those stories, those courageous stories of, you know, most recent ones. People remember like Dylan Edwards playing with a broken foot, or you know, the players with shoulders or whatever. But your team was stacked full of those stories that week, but probably none bigger than yours. From memory, there was a lot of talk about could you not feel your foot with the needles you had?
Yeah, it was crazy. So I remember the feeling of when in 2001 I played the first 10 games, did my knee really bad. Then obviously that Parramatta side goes on to make the grand final, and I was injured that year, and then the feeling of missing out on a grand final, being injured, it was absolutely horrible. And then I played every game in 2005, and then in the prelim against the Dragons, I came in field, and I remember just flicking the ball out late in a tackle with Lance Thompson, Trent Barrett, and maybe someone else. And the way I finished off, I heard my ankle just click and crunch, and there's this excruciating pain came down. I thought, oh no, because only 12 months earlier, I dislocated that same ankle in a trial for my first trial for the Tigers, and I thought, I've done it again. I've done the same foot. Anyway, I get in the sheds and I want to take my boot off, and bang, it's just exploded, just so swollen. I thought, oh, it's over. I've got to, you know, even be no chance at all. We're playing next week. Anyway, we end up winning the game, iced it up, and then all week. So on the Monday, I had an X-ray just to clear everything. There was no break. And there was this ligament damage in there, and I remember going in to see Dr. Kwa on maybe the Tuesday, Wednesday, and he said, look, we can roll the dice here. We can needle you. We can try it out. But if it doesn't work, you might, you know, finish your career. It could be that bad. Would you be willing to do that? And I, you know, without even thinking, I said, I'm all in. Let's do it. So I was willing to roll the dice. Sheensy allowed me to do that. I had to obviously get through captain's run, and so we kept icing hyperbaric chambers all week, and just pushing it as far as we could. And then captain's run comes around, I go in, and then doctor injects the ankle, and so I couldn't feel anything. And I remember just getting up, and I felt amazing that I couldn't feel that. And I went to run, and I didn't realise at the time, but I had bad knee, something in my knee as well. And I didn't realise what that was, so he injected something in my knee as well. But it turns out after the game I tore a little bit of cartilage in the knee as well. So I had to inject the ankle, inject the knee, and then 5 minutes later I actually started walking. I go, I can't feel anything here. This is unbelievable. So I remember running down the corridor there at Homebush, and I just felt free. I just felt like I'm a possibility of playing, taking the field tomorrow night, and I just felt amazing. Went outside, Sheensy was walking across, and he said, oh, how'd you go? And I think he was expecting me to say no good. And I just said, mate, I'm in. I'm ready to go. And he just looked at me for half a second. He goes, righto, go tell the boys inside. And because they were waiting for the meeting before the game. And I remember walking into that room, and all the boys were there waiting, and just and I said, I'm in, and the whole room just erupted. And the amount of love and support the boys showed me that day, I just felt like, yeah, we're going to win the game tomorrow. And that's what mateship's about. And they were so pumped for me to be involved in the game. It was such a tight group, and yeah, just to get through that. But then I obviously had to sleep it off, and then do the same process before the game and inject both the knee and the ankle. And now the rest is history.
Wow. I wouldn't mind. You mentioned Sheensy a couple of times there. When I'm doing these podcasts, I'm always thinking of like, how can a question or a story help a listener out there? So there are a lot of coaches that listen. Could you share anything about Sheensy and because I love the wisdom of older coaches. I've loved any time I've ever been able to spend time with Sheensy. His knowledge and wisdom's off the charts. And I'm not sure, like there's Wayne Bennett, Tim Sheens, Brian Smith, all in that kind of category of 600, 700 games type. I don't know what Tim's done, but let's say a lifetime, of
Yep.
coaching. Could you share anything with the listeners around Tim Sheens, lessons you've learned, maybe anything you remember? Could be just one lesson that could make a difference to people listening.
Sheensy loved rugby league, so 24 hours a day he would just talk rugby league, and he loved it. He's just study, but he also loved to try things and try different things and attack in a certain way, and he trusted his players, and that sort of instance there where I'm in a grand final, he named me in the 5. Probably when they were about to name the side, he probably knew I was no chance of playing, but he still named me and trusted me and just said, I'll give you right up until the end. And then when I sort of said I was ready, he trusted me to make that decision. He didn't make that for me. So he put a lot of trust into his players, which he got back, I suppose. And he always said to us, I don't care what you do on the field, as long as you guys practice it. I want to see you. So Benji trying to flick pass in a grand final, I want to see you practicing that all the time, training. So whatever you did, like with the kickoffs, I used to spiral the ball. And he said, I want to see you practicing that. So he trusted you and he allowed you to go out there and do it. And then a lot of the time, even with Benji, the way he used to play, Benji would try something. It wouldn't work sometimes. He'd always back him and said, look, we'll keep going. We'll keep going with that. So again, that try happens because Sheensy's the coach and he backs his players and he backs that skill and he says, right, let's train for it. Let's practice it. Let's really focus on it. And then you see in the grand final that they still talk about that try, and it became because of that. He allowed his players to play that way. And so that's one thing that I loved about Sheensy. He tried things and he backed his players.
There's a lot in that answer, mate. There's a lot in there about trust, but you have to earn that trust. Like, he needs the evidence of you practicing it.
Exactly.
Which there's a lot of some good lessons in there. Like, as long as you practice it, he's happy for you to have a crack.
Exactly right.
There's a lot in there. And mate, you mentioned your kickoffs. We have to go there. Like, so again, I've mentioned to a couple of people I'm chatting with you here, everybody remembers that try. Everybody in rugby league. When you think about that, everybody, like the kid I spoke to this morning, 15-year-old country kid from Dubbo, wasn't born.
Yeah.
As soon as I mention your name, he talks about that try. So I'm talking everybody who loves rugby league knows that try. But also I mentioned it to someone else and they went, oh, you've got to ask him about his kickoffs. Because your goal kicking was off the charts. You're like, I'm not even sure, but there'd be some sort of record you would hold for goal kicks. Like you played nearly 400 professional games and you were the goal kicker and kicked a lot of them. So I dare say you've kicked a lot of goals. Do you have a number?
I don't have a number on how many, but I suppose at the start of my career when I debuted with the Eels, we had a kicker there, Brett Hodgson.
Yeah.
And then when I moved to the Tigers, I moved to the Tigers with Hodjo. So for the first, I think, 6 years, Hodjo was the kicker. And even when I went to Wigan the first year, I didn't goal kick. It was only until, I think, Danny Tickle, he was a player for Wigan, he left, and then there was a spot available over there. So it was only the first 7 years I didn't kick.
Oh, wow.
But I was always, even at the Tigers in 05, we would always practice our goal kicking. There'd be Hodjo there. I'd be there doing some. Benji was there. Princey was there. All those guys. Princey went to the Gold Coast and was kicking, and then Benji was kicking after that. So we were really pushing each other at training and really it made us all better because we were training in that environment where we'd always have competitions and we'd try and just and you learn under pressure. That's how you learn at training, and you're around those really good kickers and it brings the best out of you as well. So I think all of that training and that really set me up to be a goal kicker, because if you are going to be a goal kicker, you got to want the ball in those tough times in a game where there's 3 minutes left and you got to kick near the sideline. You got to make sure you get it. So you got to actually be able to perform under pressure, and you've got to do those in training environments as well. So that really sets you up for that.
There's some great lessons there, mate. Because I love where you went there about as the goal kicker, you need to want that ball. You need to want that responsibility.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You can see with all the great goal kickers, Jonathan Thurston, probably his technique probably wasn't as good as Nathan Cleary's, but when the game's on the line, he wants the ball, and you know he's going to do it. Like the way he would spiral that ball, like swing that ball in from the right, but he just backed it. And whatever you are as a kicker, you've got to just be so confident in yourself and be able to stand up under pressure. And it's such I love that feeling of it. I think golfers would get the same sort of thing. You know, you see some golfers, they're leading the tournament and then comes into the last few holes and they really struggle to close it out, where other guys really thrive in that. So, yeah, you've got to really, that's a big part of it, is that confidence that you got in yourself to, when the game's on the line, to step up.
Let's stay here. Let's stay here for a second. The mindset of, you kicked a penalty goal once from 54 metres out. Talk me through the mindset when you said, righto, I'll take it. And then what are you thinking? What's your mind? Like, crowd's going crazy. There's people, will he get it? Won't he get it?
Well, I remember that time I went off for HIA and I just stepped on the field, and as I was running in, we got a penalty. And Robbie Farrell was our captain at the time, and I just went up to him. I said, 2, we'll take the 2. And he goes, you sure? And I said, yeah. I said, look, I'm taking it. So I just backed myself, I suppose. And there was definitely times in my career where I wasn't confident in myself, and it's hard to know where that goes. And sometimes when I wasn't confident, I'd be 5 meters away from the posts, and I'd be like, oh my God, I'm going to miss this. And it's amazing where you don't know where confidence sort of comes from, but you just, I suppose whenever I was in those times where I wasn't feeling good as a kicker and all that, I just went back to training and trust the process and just put the hours in, and you get out of that and you get back into that really good mindset.
Well, I think you just answered the question. The confidence comes from the practice and all the years you had, but there is that little funny moment where you've got an easy one and there's a little voice saying, hey, I'm going to miss this. How do you handle that voice?
Again, you have to just talk to yourself beforehand, and you just say, process, back yourself, and make sure in those tough times, I'd always just say, go back through and really focus and just make sure that I just kick through the ball. Because as a kicker, if you're not confident, a lot of the time a kicker will just rather just try and guide the ball and lift their head up and just push it through instead of just following through and just getting their kick right. So in those tough times, I just made sure that I just went through my process and I kicked through the ball, and I just had no regrets, really. I didn't want to say, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that. I just wanted to make sure that I know I'm a good kicker and I believe that, and if I just do the right thing, it's going to help me.
Mate, that's awesome, because that little voice thing, like that's natural. That's
absolutely, everyone gets it.
Normal. Everyone gets it. One of the best kickers of all time. Like, I'm sure you kicked over 1,000 goals. I've read that somewhere. Like, but you still had those times.
Well, everyone will.
Yeah.
But you got to talk yourself through it. I suppose it's just, you're just working with that little voice in your head. But then on the flip side, you've got, when you are confident, I remember just being anywhere in that half, I just went, I'm going to kick this goal.
Yeah.
Because I would back myself. So on the flip side, that voice is good as well when you're positive.
Yeah.
But every now and then you're not sure why. You might be carrying an injury, or you haven't had a chance to do some practice for a few weeks, and then you're not kicking that well in a game. So maybe that's where that little voice comes in. Or I always remember when I was at training, and if, like in a game, if it was a full stadium, I love that. Where if I was at training and there was one guy just decided to walk and watch, that would annoy me more than anything. I'd be like, what's he doing there? What's he thinking? Instead of in a stadium, you're not worried about anyone.
Well, mate, I don't know where to go. To the field goal from the sideline, Wigan versus who?
St. Helens.
St. Helens?
Yeah.
Or do I go to your kickoffs? Let's go to that field goal from the sideline, because if anyone wants to YouTube Pat Richards, that'll pop up. That was pretty crazy. Talk me through that. And then the Wigan fans that are listening, that if they're hung in there from our chat before, I'd love to know your memory in some comments. What do you got there?
It was about 15 minutes to go, and it was 14-all against St. Helens, and we ran the ball on the last, and Anthony Gelling was the centre, and we passed it all the way out to the wing, and I was I think I was about 45 out, and when he threw it back to me, I sort of I hadn't even thought about it. I just dropped it and bang, I just hit it. It's so sweet, and I can only think that my mindset was that because there was a rule in the Super League at the time where if there was a knock on or something, and if someone picked the ball up, you could chip over the top, and if it didn't work out, you go back to where the knock on. So I always thought, right, if I get an opportunity like that, I'm just going to have a crack at a field goal. So maybe that was my mindset going in, but I hardly even had a chance to think about it. It just happened so quick, and I suppose it would have been a better story if we ended up going on to win the game. But St Helens ended up coming back late to get the win. But it was a cracking field goal, and as soon as I hit it, I knew it was going over.
Yeah. Oh, mate. It was that good to watch. But I love hearing your version of the story. Well, the kickoffs. I remember you saying once that you told me you had Graham Arnold, who had a great career as a soccer player, soccer coach, coach Socceroos. He'll be, I don't know where he is now. He'll be coaching in the Premier League one day. He's a great manager and great coach who's had great success. But he also dabbled in helping rugby league players. Yeah. Can you talk me through that?
Well,
I
spoke earlier about 2005. We had all the Princey, Benji, Hodjo, myself. We were always just kicking stuff, and Graham Arnold was the kicking coach back then. So Sheensy got him to come in, and he tried a few things on the tee with the kickoff. He put the ball really flat instead of a normal sort of shape like that. He would put the ball like that, and he would just try and scoop a little 10-meter sort of short kick, and he would spiral the ball. And I remember just playing around with that and just started to hit it, and then started just hitting it 10 meters and then 15, and then I started to realise that because I had long legs, I could get underneath. If I got underneath the ball, I could really hit it up and spiral it, and we did that a few times. Sheensy loved it, and we got some rewards out of it. So I suppose it was just another little thing that I tried. Sheensy allowed me to do it because we practiced it. And then I remember after every game, guys would come up to me and they're like, don't do that to me again. I'm having nightmares about that. So I'm getting feedback from players, and I'm going, right, they don't like it. I wouldn't like it if I was down there. And it was just something that we tried. We got some rewards out of it, and if you can get a result, well, it's going to help you. And I remember in 2005, I think we played the Cowboys at Campbelltown, and I remember putting up a big spiral and hit the post, and we got the ball back, and then we scored later on. So that just gives you confidence that it works. And you had coaches and all the boys were supporting me with it, and that's how it started. And then you look back at 2015 Grand Final where Cole Felt does a kick-off and he puts one up and makes it really hard, and Ben Hunt drops the ball, then they get the ball back and they kick a field goal and they win the game. So it's definitely worthwhile to try things, and they come out in the big moments.
Well, there's a lot of players since have practiced that kick, those same kicks that you were doing. So you're the OG, you're the original. Well, mate, let's go now to our time together at the Parramatta Eels, and I remember that 01 year. I remember what a year. That was a record-breaking year, most attacking points ever. It still is the record.
Crazy, yeah.
That was a crazy year, but you said the pain of missing that grand final. Could you take me through that, your memories of that time? And then we probably should go to the developmental years, because mate, that club was benchmark of developing players, developing fundamentals. And, I even heard you talk before about that Tigers grand final where you had to change hands from here to here. Those were, they might seem to the average listener very basic skills, but they were the basics of what come out on the big moment, those fundamentals.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it was awesome to be involved in that time, learning the game. The game's all about fundamentals. And you talk about if you talk to anyone about that days, they'll always say the 6 o'clock pass and the early catch. And the skill level, it stands up under pressure. All the best players in the game, like Cameron Smith, how many times did he have a bad pass from dummy half? Never. He would always, because he would practice that over and over and over. I think a lot of young kids, they probably look past the basic sort of stuff where those NRL guys, they're nailing that. That is their bread and butter. And to learn that from a young age back then was so good to do that. And yeah, like you said, that grand final where I had to catch the ball in the right hand and then change it. And we're doing those sort of drills and over and over and over for years and years. And that's when it comes out in the games. And it just becomes second nature then. When you're under fatigue and whatnot, it's what you've done for all those years. And yeah, it was a great learning time and a great. I loved that back in the Eels back then. We had so many good young kids, and I was in those Harold Matthews sides. We won the comp there, SG Ball, and Jamie Lyon and those sort of guys. And yeah, it was awesome.
Let's stick on a few of these names. Do you remember who coached your junior teams out there?
Yeah. So Shane Flanagan coached our SG Ball side that we won. Peter Soraya was our Harold Matthews coach. We had some cracking players come through, and yeah.
I'm trying to think of the group because Brian Smith used to send me down and run the Jets program.
Jets, yeah.
Okay, well, there's been a couple of people here lately talk about the Jets program.
Yep.
It's fond memories for a lot. So for anyone listening, it was more of that accelerated type group that we were really fast tracking their development. And I remember your group. Your group, I think, had the highest success rate of players that went on to NRL. And it was guys like Jamie Lyon and Danny Sullivan and
Danny Irvine.
It was such a good crew. And my memory, I mean, mate, the people listening are going to think I'm the biggest Pat Richards fanboy, but here's my memory of those days. This was a funny story. You might not even know, but Brian Smith, he was a genius, mate, at all that stuff, setting up that program and system and what he had his coaches doing. Like, you wouldn't realise the stuff that he was getting us to do. So, and every time I would return back to the office, every time he would say, "Who's your best? Who's your top three?" He would always ask me, "Who's your top three today and why?" Because he had this thing, like if you go to someone now, "Oh, how was training?" Usually someone says, "Oh, good, the boys were good." Or bad, the boys were bad, whatever. But he would always ask me, "What? So they were all good?"
Yeah.
Was everyone good or was everyone bad? Like he used to want to know about the individuals. So he would always deliberately ask me, "Who was your best? Who was your top three and why?" And I used to talk about this kid, Pat Richards, all the time, like every day almost. And one day, Alan Wilson, do you remember Alan Wilson?
Yeah.
Alan Wilson in a staff meeting, he sits forward on his chair, he looks over and he goes, does your girlfriend, I wasn't married at the time, girlfriend, I think he might have said, does your missus get sick of you talking about Pat Richards? And I looked and he goes, because I do, but Brian loved it. But Wilson was only joking.
Yeah.
Like he said, all you ever do is talk about Pat Richards. Brian loved it to the point he couldn't wait to debut it because of that. Like, again, that was every day you gave evidence and gave someone like him trust in picking you, believing in you. Those were great days. Like Rod Reddy,
awesome.
Some of the stuff Rod Reddy used to do around that fundamentals was.
I remember that time. I loved it, and like you said, like I just wanted to make it. I was just competitive every day, and I think if you get the best out of every little session, it just makes you grow every time. And I suppose it's the only way you can do it. I mean, Lachlan Galvin did that last year, the preseason. He sort of every session. I just kept, every time I'd talk to Robbie or Benji, how the boys going? Mate, Galvin's killing it. He's killing it.
Yeah.
Just kept doing it and doing it and doing it. And then he ends up playing him round one. So, I mean, for any young kid, it's like, don't just be there to survive. Go out there and compete every day and get the best out of yourself. That's how you grow, and that's how you get opportunities. You create them yourself by how you train every day and not just trying to survive.
Yeah. I mean, I already had some opinions of you anyway before I'd seen you come through when I say opinions, very good references of you from coaches, even of different sports, that worked with you at Westfield's sports school. Track and field coaches, even my father was one. A guy named Roger Green. I don't know if you remember Roger.
Yep.
He was, I think he might have taught you how to throw the javelin once, or there was track coaches out there. There was strength coaches out there at Westfield School. Did a bit of. I love the fact that you played so many different sports. Like, I tell any junior coaches or teachers or parents out there, just let kids play. Let them play.
I think that's important that you do that, because you pick up so many different skills from other sports, and sports are always about fun. And if you join different little sports and whatnot, and people talk about my kicking now, but I played soccer since I was 4, and I didn't start playing rugby league until I was 12. So I had all of that time. I could develop my kicking skills, which I then took to rugby league, and then. If some kids were playing basketball and things like that, it's good for your hands. And so I think, those little playing other sports is great for that as well. And bringing it to, you never know what any good athlete's going to do, but as long as they're skilled in other sports, you can take little things from those sports and bring them to rugby league.
Mate, I love that you've said that, because like I say, I'll always encourage it, but you lived it. You're like living proof of it.
Yeah.
You were a great cricketer. Your hands and your skills, and you were a fast bowler though, weren't you?
Fast bowler and a bit of a batter, yeah. I love playing cricket. I was, I suppose it came a time when that Jets program started. Just before that, I debuted for Fairfield Liverpool in the Sydney grade competition. I played first grade when I was 17, and then when I sort of the Eels offered me the opportunity to train in that Jets program, and then you do a bit of training with first grade, and I sort of had to make that decision then where I've got to really focus on this. But the sad part of it was I'd have to give cricket away, because I loved cricket as a kid, and I love both. I don't have any regrets about how it all turned out, because I absolutely loved playing rugby league for the whole time. But it was also a little bit sad because I had to give cricket away because it was a big love of mine as well.
I remember. I do now. This is all coming back to me. I remember we were almost competing with, is he going to go down that cricket route? And, I wasn't really a follower of that grade cricket, but I believe playing first grade cricket at that age is quite an achievement. And do you play like rep schoolboy cricket and all that type of stuff?
Yeah, so New South Wales under 17s cricket. I actually played New South Wales under 17s cricket and New South Wales under 17s rugby league same time. So I was always...
And went to the New South Wales Championships, track and field.
Yeah.
The whole bit.
Yeah, so it was always just playing, rugby league in the winter and then cricket in the summer, and then just keep switching between them, and then till it came to that time. But, I ended up debuting with the Eels when I was 18 in 2000, and still remember just getting the phone call the week before actually to go up to Brisbane with the first grade side, and you're on the plane with Jason Smith and those sort of guys and Jim Dimmick, and I just couldn't believe it. I was in school last year, and it really happened so quick. And then a week later I debuted against the Melbourne Storm at Parramatta, and I think Guru got picked in the New South Wales side, so I got an opportunity to debut, and I still just couldn't believe being out in the same field with Stephen Kearney and Marcus Bai for the Melbourne Storm, and Kalis and Ironmarsh and Jim Dimmick and those sort of guys. So it's crazy to think that you're in school last year and then you're playing on a Friday night at Parramatta Stadium and in the NRL.
I might stay with one or two of those names there, because again, I'm hoping there might be little lessons. What are your memories of Nathan Kalis back then? Because he was a very young captain. So in the year 2000, he would have been about 23 years old,
about 23.
And he was captaining that team.
Yeah, I remember.
What made him such a good captain? Because he became one of the most
especially
captains
in the front row as well, for a young player like that. But he had a lot of wisdom behind his ears. He felt like he was a lot older the way he acted. He was just such a good leader. And he had so much respect from all the senior players and all the young kids coming through, where they saw the way he trained, and the way he went about his business, and he was awesome. It was such a great group there, both Hindmarshes, both Kalises, and Andrew Ryan, and it was Luke Bird and Hodjo and Mick Vella, and you could just keep rattling them off. But it was a special group of players, and it's a shame that 2001 side didn't go on to win the comp, because, like you said before, it was probably one of the most, it's definitely the most attacking points scored by a side in a year, and the way they played was unreal.
Okay, thanks for that. Thanks for sharing that, because, you just made it very, very clear why you said he had the respect of everyone, but the reason was because of how he trained.
Yep.
And then obviously a lot of other things too. Made that multiple sports bit in those junior years, is there any influential people or lessons you remember in those years, whether it be a teacher, a junior coach, or is there anything even, like from your soccer years, it could be anything that, those lessons may be helping someone now. Is there anything that really stuck out that you think was influential in your career?
It's hard to really pinpoint. I think it's the whole journey and the whole support you get from your family, your friends, and who your teammates are and your coaches. And my family, my mum used to drive me around all Sydney and all these different sports. So she was awesome. She never pushed me at all. She just got me to the places. And you see some parents on their kids, they're really hard on them. And I used to see that with some kids, and I used to feel sorry for them that their parents would come down hard on them. And I was lucky where my mum never did that, and I felt good because of that. And she just got me there, and it all came from within about how hard I was willing to work and whatnot. But yeah, I was lucky enough to have some great people around me, some great teammates and coaches, and I suppose they all shape you into the athlete you are, and you pick up little bits from each one of them. But there's probably not one moment that I would pinpoint, but I think all the coaches from juniors to rep sides, and they all shape you, and they're so important to who you end up becoming out there.
Well, it's so important that who you surround your kids with as well. Like you sound like you're blessed to have really good people around you, and what a great story about your mum. Like, I've asked you what was the most influential thing, and there's a little nugget of gold in what you just talked about, your mum, and how she supported your journey. And you mentioned a lot of coaches. So what if I just nail it down to give me your best junior coach and why?
Well, my first coach at rugby league, Bruce Cameron at Parramatta, he was awesome. He taught us how to play and really was about the fundamentals. And, I was in a pretty good Parramatta side when I first joined in under 12s. We didn't lose a game pretty much from 12s, 13s, 14s, 15s, 16s. And then a lot of us went on to play Harold Matthews and Estia Ball. And then I was in first grade. So my introduction to rugby league was great. So Bruce Cameron, that's Haley Butler's dad. And he was, he was my first coach, and he was pretty influential because they're the early days, I suppose, and how to learn the game. And he actually threw me in the front row to start with. So I started in the front row, and then it was only a couple of years later where I started to move out wider, and then I went to the back row and then onto the wing. So, but yeah, I suppose all the coaches, they all sort of add little bits to you, and you pick up little things from them. And Brian Smith was great when I first got to the Eels. He was like about the fundamental stuff. He really made us work hard at those, and they really set you up, So Smithy was great. Sheensy was awesome as well, and Sean Wayne over at England, and Michael Maguire as well was. So I've been coached by some awesome coaches, and I you just pick little bits from them that change you as a player as well.
Well, I forgot some of those coaches like Sean Wayne. I've only met briefly and stuff. I'd love him on here. I've got Matt Pete lined up, by the way. Yep. But yeah, Sean Wayne, what an impressive leader he has been, and then what he's doing with England. And
yeah, awesome. Yeah, Wayne was great. So Wayne, when Michael Maguire first turned up to Wigan, he got Wayne to come on as our assistant coach. So we had those two guys there, and they were so good. Wayne was unreal. Madge was awesome. Madge really changed the culture of the club. He was there for 2 years. We'd gone from finished in like 6th with the same squad. We won the comp in the next year, and then the Challenge Cup the year after. Then Madge came back to South, and he had success straight away. And then when he did that, Sean Wayne took over. They're both different coaches in their own right because they're different people, and I love both of them. I've got a lot of time for both of them, and it was awesome to be coached by them.
Well, Madge Maguire's like pretty topical at the moment. So the beauty of these podcasts, though, they'll be around forever. So people will be reminiscing about those things 20 years' time. But as we record right now, he's very topical. He's just moved to coach the Brisbane Broncos. I'm going to remind you, you may not even remember this. I used to occasionally try to put a call into you, just see how you're going in England. And I remember calling you. He had just arrived. You may not remember. I remember the phone call, and you said, we will win the comp this year. He just arrived, and you said, we will win the comp. And I asked you why, and you just said the change he made in the culture. You referenced a camp you did. There was like a crazy camp, and you also referenced all the Melbourne Storm wrestle type stuff that he brought over. And that changed the game a bit. There'd be people in England hate that because he really brought that into the Super League. But I actually remember you say, we will win the comp. Do you think there'll be a player at Brisbane sitting back going, like feeling what you felt?
Possibly, yeah. I think look what he did with New South Wales as well. Madge was awesome when he first turned up. He just literally changed the culture of the place, made us just train so hard, and brought that wrestle sort of type into it, and I suppose challenged you as players. But the side we had at Wigan were ready for that as well. So you've also got to have those guys to jump on board because they're the ones who are going to drive that. I remember the first day Madge turns up, we're doing a 5K run in the bush, and Feka Paliasina sort of went, and then he didn't come back. He apparently said afterwards he got lost going back to his car, so he came back a bit overweight, and so found that a bit tough. And Piggy Riddell was around as well then, and Piggy talks about it now, but Piggy loved that time because he really challenged Piggy to get the best out of himself, and right at the start of the season, Piggy was a different player to the end. Like in the grand final, Piggy was playing his best ever footy. So he talks about that. He sort of wishes he had that sort of at certain times in his career as well. We just felt that we were ready for a change. And since 2010, Wigan has just been going on, like they've just been competing for trophies ever since. And like you say, they've just won those other ones as well. So it's great to see the club still being successful, and it all sort of started around that sort of 2009 into that 2010 preseason, and now the club's sort of in a good position since.
I like you mentioned Mark Riddell because he's also coming on the show soon. And
he'll talk about that.
He will.
Ask him about that army camp.
I've heard some stories about that army camp. He maybe didn't enjoy that.
No, I don't think he did. He enjoys it now, telling a story and laughing about it. But
he would have had a bad back or something.
Yeah.
But
they just shape you as a side, and you see guys working hard. And those army camps and whatnot, they were really tough, but you get a lot out of it. It's not just about you see your teammates working hard, and it brings you together.
I tell you what, though, this will be a great topic to coaches listening, or even recruitment people. Let's. You've just reminded me how important a team is to have all types of characters. And Mark Riddell as a character in a team.
Unreal.
He's so good. And how passionate he is, and love for the game and love for building that mateship.
Yep.
You mentioned they're your best mates for life. If you were to pick a team, like what type of people do you need in a team?
Well, you need different people. You need, funny guys like you Kalises, and you need those guys. You need your Mark Riddells. And
I'm glad you didn't mean Kalis was funny. You meant hard sort of
then
guys. You need
a
funny
groups.
Mark.
You need some funny. You need to have a mix of everything. That just creates that good environment where you want to actually you want to enjoy turning up every day and having fun, because we all know how hard it is to be a professional athlete and get through a preseason, but you've also got to enjoy it and turn up with that attitude where I want to be there. And that's when you come together and you're tight. You look at that Penrith side that's just won 4 grand finals, and you can see how tight they are. And those guys that end up leaving, they still feel a part of that group. You know, they still turn up. Like Crichton was there to wish the boys well. It's like a family. It becomes a family, and but you need those different characters in that side. And Piggy was definitely a character, and he was so much fun to play with.
Mate, you just mentioned how hard it is. Could we share any, I mean, because it's not all rosy. For those athletes that are listening and following your career, it's not all rosy. Is there any hard times and any lessons you might want to share?
Oh, there's a million hard times. There's every day is tough, like we said, especially when you get injured. I had a lot of bad injuries. So when I was 19, that started 2001, done my knees. Literally, I remember going into Dr. Johnson's office, and he said, "Mate, you've done the hamburger with the lot." So basically, all 4 ligaments in the knee gone. I had to get a lateral ligament reconstruction on the outside of my leg. So I was in a cast for 3 months. Then I had to wait for that, get a knee reco after that, and I was out for a good 12, 18 months after that. So when you're on your own, you're not with the side, so you feel a bit isolated, but they're the tough times because you can see them out in the field, and then they're playing in grand finals, and they're having fun, they're doing what you want to do, but you're struggling. You want to get back to that. So and the preseason's tough. Every single day you come home, you are absolutely spent, and you should be, because you need to get the best out of yourself. And you ask any player now, they always say, "Oh, I'm so relieved that I don't have to do that anymore." At the time, you love it because that's what you want to do, but yeah, it's very hard to be there and stay there and have a long career.
Okay, you mentioned like the physical challenges there, and what about the mental challenges or the contract times? Because I'm looking back, again, you know how much I love Pat Richards back then. I was heartbroken when you left. I spent all these years with this kid, and I've seen him debut, and we all did, but it's a cutthroat business. I dare say your memories of leaving Parramatta aren't great. Share that if you want, or any other times. Like, it's only coming to mind now because I had Daniel Mortimer on the show just recently, and Daniel Mortimer shared a story of when he was let go and a dark time that he went through. Like, it wasn't great. Like, is there anything like that in your career? Because you have...
Yeah, it's definitely tough. It's tough on the family. You don't know where you're going to be. I ended up playing rugby league here in Australia, over in England. I played in France as well. So you're moving around a fair bit as well. You don't know what is after your next contract. But you're around that Parramatta time when I left. I had that bad injury, and I just couldn't quite get going after that knee, and for whatever reason, the reason I did leave, I just felt like I just needed a change. I spoke to Smithy about staying and whatnot, but I just felt like I just needed a change for myself, different change of scenery. And it was tough to leave because I was a Parramatta junior, loved my time there and loved all the people there and all the coaches and all the boys. But like you said, it's a tough business, and it wasn't working for me there. So I just felt like I'm just going to focus somewhere else and go there. And I had a good meeting with Sheensy, and I suppose he believed me a little bit, and I just wanted to go over there and just try something new. And
So what was it when obviously you went and spoke with Smitty, and how did he handle that? You just said you felt Sheensy believe in you. Did you feel in a meeting with Smitty that the belief wasn't there? Because like, I know behind all the walls and all the people in there, they believed in you, but did something come across that these guys don't believe in me anymore?
I've probably felt that a little bit. I know he probably did, but I just didn't feel like the way Sheensy was saying, "Mate, I really want you here. I can see you doing this, and I suppose he sold it to me a bit better. And the way I wasn't performing, and I just felt like, all right, I'm just going to really focus on that and just leave. So, it was a tough decision, but sometimes you got to make those tough decisions as well. And it was only 2 years after that I was at the Tigers and really enjoying it. But I had another injury, like I mentioned before. When I first joined the Tigers, I dislocated my right ankle. So I thought I'll keep getting these big injuries, and then I got an opportunity to go to Wigan. And then I had that conversation with Sheensy. He's like, mate, I really want you to stay. And I had to make a tough decision to go as well. So I think you just got to do the best for yourself at the time. I just thought if I didn't take this opportunity to go to England, and if I have one more injury, well, I might be just out the back door then. So that was one of the real reasons why I did go to England early. And Sheensy was sort of saying, look, mate, I think you can stay here. You can try to go for Origin. We can win a comp. And so halfway through 05, I signed. I said, mate, I'm going. And he said, all right, no worries. Then we ended up going on and win the comp. So it wasn't like I signed after the grand final. So I did know that before the grand final. But, yeah, that was a tough decision to go as well. And at the time, not many guys had gone over to England as early as I sort of did. But I only even thought, oh, mate, I'll go for 2 years and I'll come back. But ended up staying for 8 years. So you never know what's around the corner. You just got to, I suppose, deal with everything and at the time. And I've got no regrets. I love playing for the Eels. I love playing for the Tigers. And then I had an opportunity after that 8 years at Wigan to come back to the Tigers. So I was very grateful for that. And just to be able to come back and compete back here as well after being away for so long. I was 32, 33 at the time, but I still feel confident in how I played when I was at that age and my second stint at the club. So, I didn't want to be one of those guys where I'd be sitting on the couch watching Friday night footy when I was 40 and going, geez, I wish I did come back and compete back here. So, like I said, I love my time at Wigan. I love my time at every club I've done at, and I've got no regrets. And you only get one career and you just got to do the best for yourself, and that's it.
Awesome, mate. Could I just ask you quickly, then we'll finish. You stayed 8 years over there. What did you love about England away from footy? If you think England now, your kids were born there. I'm tipping your son will play for England. I already hear he's a good young player, and I know he's got a multi-sport background, which I'm a big fan of, and I know he's got good genetics, but he was born in England. What did you love about England?
I love the people. I love the fans. You know what the English fans are like. That you might go. I remember being away for so long, and my first game back in Australia was at Homebush. There was 30,000 there and an 80,000 seater, and it felt like there was no atmosphere. Where over in England, if you go to one of those old grounds and there's only 10,000 people there, it feels like 40,000 because they're just going crazy. They're sitting together, they're all singing those songs, and so they just created a great atmosphere, and I just loved it. They were just really passionate fans, and they only cared, like for Wigan, they only cared if you beat St Helens. That's what they said. So as soon as you turn up, as long as you beat St Helens, we don't care. That's their mindset. They always, because they're one of their biggest rivals. So I always tell people, whoever go over there, I remember talking to Bevan French before he went to Wigan. I said, mate, just go over there, rip in, and the fans will love you for it. So, and he's doing really good things over there now. And so you've got to really, the English fans, that they just want you, if you're going to go over there, they don't want you going over there for a holiday. They want you to go over there and rip in and play your best. And if they see that, they'll be on your side.
Awesome. Paddy, thanks so much. Within all that, there's little lessons there. There's some great memories. There's thousands of English people now. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, all you people there in England, or however you do it. Share it with, you know what? Share, if someone comes across this and they were in the crowd when you kicked that field goal, or they were in the crowd for that grand final when you finished your career there, scoring a try in a grand final, please send it to the person that was sitting next to you that day, and just remember and listen to this legend, listen to this Wigan legend. Mate, so good catching up with you again. Thanks so much for coming on, mate.
Awesome, mate. Thanks, mate.